Thanks so much for listening to No Lions Here with me, Big Panda. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to No Lions Here. My name is Big Panda, and I'm a recovering sex addict. First off, guys, I want to go ahead and plug the socials. Go check us out on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. It's all No Lions Here. And I definitely want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Beginning Again Institute. Thank you so much for the sponsorship and the partnership. I'm really excited and grateful for that relationship moving forward. And I'm excited for the next step. And so shout out to them. Again, the email for the show is nolionshere@gmail.com. Again, that's nolionshere@gmail.com. Please feel free to reach out with any topic ideas or anything like that, or just to connect, guys. I love hearing from listeners and, you know, what they think of the show and just the support. Like it means a lot to me. And so, you know, nice little segue in. I got a really nice message from the website recently, and Steve, shout out to Steve for sending me this message and throwing in there like a little prayer. So I just want to start this episode off with reading the prayer meditation that Steve sent us. Steve is a BAI alum. So again, shout out to Steve. He said, "To change ourselves is a different process from controlling ourselves, which cannot be done. When we give up control, we begin to change. And the more we change our focus from the external to the internal, the more we are able to accept ourselves. And the more we humbly accept ourselves as we are, the more wholehearted we become and in control we become." So thank you so much to Steve for sending that out to me. Again, you know, I love hearing from listeners, man. It's just so awesome. And it like really validates, you know, what I'm doing and inspires and motivates me to keep going. Because, you know, in life, we can get hit by so many different things that try to knock us down or knock us off path. And, you know, when I can get these reminders, it's very inspirational and motivating to me to just keep going, keep pushing. Like I was in line. I knew I was coming in today to record this episode, and, you know, I was feeling good about it. I was excited, took the day off of work from my day job, and, you know, I was in line at Starbucks, and I got a text from Kyle, my business partner. You know, if you haven't listened to that episode, really good episode. We've known each other for, 20 plus years. So I got a text from him, from another message came through on the website, you know, a guy saying, "Hey, thanks for putting the podcast out there. You know, I've struggled with prostitution for 10 years and sex addiction for a lifetime. And I just really appreciate you putting the addiction out there." And, you know, I was already really excited to come in and record, but that just like, I don't know, that made me even more excited. Like, this is why I'm doing this. This is why I'm doing this, to get these messages from Steve, to get these other messages. This is why I'm doing this. And it inspires me to keep coming in and keep putting my story out there and the journey out there, just to help anybody struggling. Because this is a heavy addiction. You know, addiction in general is heavy, but, you know, when you're dealing with sex addiction, there's a lot of shame involved in this, and it's very isolating. So, you know, if I can help people, you know, that's what I want to be doing. And in return, I'm also helping myself by doing this, by putting this out there. I truly believe that this is kind of a calling for me, and God's given me a gift to do this. So with all that being said, let's jump into just where I've been at. I feel like it's been a while since I've done a solo episode, and so definitely want to catch everybody up on where I've been at, what I've been dealing with, and the things that have been coming up, because it's been, you know, in recovery, there's, especially, you know, when you're doing the work and uncovering the stones, and there's a lot that goes on. There's a lot that comes up too. And one of those big things for me was, you know, when I had Sako on the podcast, we talked about ADHD and recovery and how that plays into addiction. And, you know, I really thought there was a lot of things that he discussed and talked about, and I was like, oh wow, like I feel like I can resonate with a lot and relate to a lot of these symptoms and things that he was bringing up. And I was like, okay, at that point in time, I was already kind of questioning it, but I was like, all right, I need to get some professional take on this. And, my older brother, he was diagnosed with ADD back in 2016 at 29 years old. And then in going and meeting with my dad's side of the family, also realizing that like they had some stuff too. They also, anxiety runs on that side of the family as well. And so I met with a psychiatric nurse, and she was like, yeah, you're not, I did some tests. She was like, you're not crazy off the charts, but I do believe that, you have it to some extent. So we're going to look into putting you on some medication for that. Well, then there was another psychiatrist that my CSAT had referred me to. So saw her, and then I was like, well, I'm going to get a second opinion. And got a second opinion from another psychiatrist. And he, in that assessment, he was like, yeah, I think that your issue is anxiety. And I think that your anxiety is presenting itself. The symptoms are presenting itself as ADHD. And I was like, yeah, you're not wrong there. Like, I definitely have anxiety. I've known that for some time now. I mean, it was back 2018 when I kind of realized what anxiety was. And I know that that's been a big part of my story. So he put me on some anxiety medication, and, I had always been kind of against medication. It was kind of almost like I can do this on that whole mentality of like, I can do this on my own. I can take care of this on my own, especially, getting into recovery and saying, okay, in recovery, I'm given tools and new ways of coping and, working through these different issues that I have. So we don't need to go the medicine route. And I tried taking medicine. I don't know, this was it was 2021, I believe. And I didn't really like it. It didn't do much for me. I was on a really low dose. And so I just kind of stopped taking it because I was like, I was always so afraid. And this is like the addict in me, the black and whiteness of like, well, medication's just going to numb me out. And that's no way to live life. Right? Like, yeah, sure, maybe the lows aren't low, but the highs aren't high. I'm just kind of in the middle of the boat, just kind of like, blah. And I was like, I don't really want to do that, right? Like, I want to experience life and everything that life has to offer, the ups and the downs. And so, but, in realizing how big a part anxiety plays in my life and just how I feel like I'm constantly on edge, my internal, I feel so tightly wound internally to the point where like it has really affected my sobriety, because I get so spun up in anxiety and fear that there's in my mind, perceives no other way out other than to soothe myself through unwanted sexual behaviors, porn, masturbation, anonymous hookups, I haven't found something that, has really taken the edge off other than the way that does. And that is a very powerful solution. It's not the right solution, but it is very powerful. And, we talk about this in the program all the time. Like, that way of coping, yeah, it works. However, it's very temporary. And on the other side of it, there's a lot of shame and guilt. And so I'm just like, I don't want to keep doing that. That's not where I want to be. I know that. And so it really came time to really look at that anxiety and, okay, what can I do for myself? And so being, more open-minded to medication. And I think for me, that's growth. And again, that whole aspect of like asking for help, like realizing that like, okay, I'm doing what I can on my own and I'm not getting the results that I want. Okay, what else can I bring into the equation that's going to help me? So now I'm in a spot where I am more open to medication and trying these different ways and different approaches. And so I was like, okay, let's get on it. So got on it. I've been on it for almost a month now. And the first 4 or 5 days were not good. They were not good. And I know that, with a lot of these kind of different medications, you kind of have to be on them for a month or two before things kind of build up in the system and kind of level out. And that was one of my questions. I was like, okay, how long until I'm seeing the benefits of this? And this doctor was like, it's about 7 days, 7 to 10 days. You should start feeling a difference. So I knew in those first 4 or 5 days that, okay, yes, this is uncomfortable. It felt like a mild mushroom trip. If you've ever had any experience with magic mushrooms, I'm not condoning them, but I do have some experience with them, and that's kind of what it felt like, just like yawning a lot and just kind of a little shaky internally and physically. And it just was really, really uncomfortable, like really, really uncomfortable. And so luckily I've got a friend that's a medical doctor. I got a couple friends in the program that are medical doctors. And so I was able to take this to them, and this kind of shows, hey, what do my connections look like? Who can I talk to? Who can I bring this stuff to that's going to kind of understand what I'm going through and just kind of reassure me of like, hey, this is normal. This is normal. It's okay. And so that was what my doctor friend told me. He's like, yeah, he's like, I actually prescribe that medication a lot. He's like, that's actually a really good medication for anxiety. And so I was like, okay, that helped me not cancel Christmas, because there's so many times where, I'm doing things and they don't work out maybe right away, right? That instant gratification of let me take this pill because it's not Xanax, that's definitely one of those like immediate ones, but that's more of like a numbing one. It wasn't something that was going to work instantly, that instant gratification of taking a medication and it just immediately working. And so I was like, all right, okay, he's telling me that this is normal. Okay, don't cancel Christmas just yet. Let's ride this out. It is uncomfortable, but let's ride this out and see. And it just brain fog, and it just really just didn't. I was not comfortable. It was not comfortable at all. And after it was about day 5 that like those symptoms went away and I felt clear-headed. I feel really good with the medication. Like it's taken the edge off of things. It has greatly reduced my anxiety and that internal, because when this anxiety kicks up for me, I get very much stuck in that cycle, very stuck inside my head, my body. Like I just get so internally tightly wound in just the loops and the hamster wheels going nuts up there to where like I feel like I cannot escape it. And so that edge is gone. I feel good. Again, the symptoms, the side effects have gone away. I haven't had any other side effects. It hasn't affected my sleep. There was a point in time though, I don't know, I was probably on it for about a week, maybe a little bit more than a week. And I remember trying to like go for a run because, that's one of the things that I do for myself is I exercise, I go for runs. And like, I was really struggling in my runs and I was like, oh no, like, is this going to affect my running? And luckily, I've gotten to a point where it doesn't, but man, like every little thing I was like, oh, is this where's this gonna, I'm looking over my shoulder saying, all right, when's the bad stuff gonna come in? Which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. Like, when's the bad stuff gonna happen here? Like, what? All right, I feel good, but this is too good to be true almost. And just that whole, like, waiting for the other shoe to drop mentality. And then took that to my doctor friend and was like, man, I feel really good. I said, I'm almost kind of afraid though that, like, I'm afraid that this is numbing me out. And he was like, well, do you feel manic? And I was like, no, but I had to have him describe what manic was because I really didn't know. And I was like, no. And then it kind of hit me. I was like, well, like, if I was numbed out, I wouldn't be feeling good. Yeah, I wouldn't be feeling bad, but I wouldn't be feeling good either. Like, I feel better than I have in a very long time, if ever. And that is huge for me in getting this under control. And so it's like, okay, I feel good. Let's just accept that, hey, this may be working. And also too, I'm in a good spot in my recovery, like, I've got a lot of really good things going on. I feel more filled with purpose and fulfillment in the things that I'm doing. And, put that with the medication, like, yeah, like, I feel good. And let's just accept that. Now, one of the caveats with the medication is, so the doctor, when we were talking about it, he was like, oh, this is something that is normally prescribed to guys that have problems with premature ejaculation. Now, I'm a sex addict. So what do I do with that information? Well, honestly, it's been a while and I'm more sensitive. I'm trying to figure out how to put this in the right way without being too much information. I am very sensitive in those areas. And so this thought in my head of like, oh, wow, so not only is this going to help with my anxiety, but this is going to help with my sensitivity sexually. So, oh, wow, let's go out and let's test this theory. I'm laughing, obviously, like, it's amusing sometimes to see where my thoughts go. Just with like a little bit of information. My thoughts take that information and run with it. And so, and I've openly shared this with my sponsor and, other program friends. Like, this is not the first time I've been talking about this, but it's amusing to see where the mind takes things, like that kind of information. And so, of course, my mind's like, well, I got to put this to the test. I got to see if this really works for it, and because that is, in all seriousness, like, that is a fear of mine when getting into a relationship is, wow, I am not going to be able to fulfill somebody else's needs because I am really sensitive. And it's going to be, I'm going to be a letdown. I'm not going to be able to perform the way that I want to perform, and where they're going to be really let down, and then they're not going to want to be with me because I am not good enough in that arena because I'm too sensitive. And it just, again, the tapes that play there, and it's kind of wild stuff, honestly. And I need to not buy into that. And I need to not, I need to view those as, hey, man, like, those are just thoughts. I am not my thoughts. Like, I am so much more than how I can perform sexually, And for most of my life, that was important to me because that is how I was validated. Being a sex addict, that's how I validated my sexual performance. Again, apologize if this is too much information. However, it's like, I got to look at all this stuff, and that I assigned a lot of value and a lot of worth to that. Oh, I know what I'm doing. You know, you're going to have a good time when you decide to hook up with me. And again, I put a lot of my worth into that. So when there were times where I wasn't able to perform, like that was really, I would really shame myself. And no one would shame me, but I would shame myself because of that. So of course, I'm looking at this going, oh wow, boom. Not only is this going to fix my anxiety, it's going to fix my sensitivity as well. And and it does not justify me going out and putting that theory to the test. Right? It does not justify me doing that. So, I need to be aware, just like, everything that I have going on. I need to be careful because those thoughts can quickly hijack me to the point of like, well, yeah, I got to go test this out. So, it's one of those things, again, just looking at it from a point of view of like, man, I'm not my thoughts, and that's just a thought, and I don't have to act on it. And that I'm not a bad person for having these thoughts. And again, if I'm not acting on them, then you know what? Those thoughts are just thoughts. And we're human beings. We all have these thoughts. My brain is constantly trying to problem solve. And, oh, here's a solution to that problem. When really that is not the solution. I do not need to go out and test this. And I do not need to go out, and I don't need to do that. So, but just, voicing it to voice it and shed light on it. And that helps me remember that, again, I'm not my thoughts. We all have thoughts. It's okay to have thoughts. That's been a big thing for me recently, just, getting on this medication. And I think that's definitely contributing to, where I'm at. I feel like I have a little bit more zest for life with where I'm at right now. Like things aren't perfect. They're not exactly how I would like them to look right now. But I feel a little bit more upbeat. There's a little bit more pep in my step these days, just in some of the things that I'm doing. And so that feels really good. There's another piece to that as well that I was really like opened up to in, what in the past has been really hard conversations with my mother. And it was really interesting. This was a few weeks back, but it was a Friday night, and I was supposed to go and play hockey that night. And now you guys know that hockey is really big for me. It's a big part of my life. It's a very healthy thing that I do. And I was supposed to go play hockey. Well, we got some bad weather that day, and the rink where I was going to play, they closed down. So Friday night came around. It was Friday, actually, that it happened. And I was really excited to play. And I got a text that said, hey, man, we're not playing tonight. The rink's closing down. So that's a bummer. And I remember not being so disappointed by that. I was like, okay, cool. Like, I've got a free night to do what I want to do with. Man, I kind of want to just chill. And I remember I texted my mom. I was at work, and I was like, hey, what are you doing for dinner tonight? We haven't had Mexican food in a while. Let's get some Mexican. She's like, yeah, that sounds great. When you get home, I'll order it, and you can go pick it up, and we'll eat. So I was like, all right, cool, let's do that. So we did that, and me, her, and my little brother are sitting at the table, and we're eating, and then me and my mom just started talking. We started talking. And I wasn't planning on doing this. I wasn't planning on getting into anything deep with her or anything like that. And we started to start talking, and I felt present in that conversation. There's a lot of times where her and I have talked, and I'm anxious. I'm trying to find a way out of the conversation, but I do remember just being really present in that conversation with her around like just being there and listening and allowing her space to share what she was saying. And there were things that she was telling me that she was like, I think I disagree and am insulted by some of the things that you've brought up around your childhood and what you feel like I've contributed to in your life. And, it was like, okay, I hear you. It's not my job to fix that. Normally in the past it would have been like, okay, let me backtrack what I said here and, try to explain it to where maybe she understands, because that would be my way of trying to fix it is, well, let me explain this even more to you so that you can understand, because I need you to understand where I'm coming from. When it's like, that's not really my job. And for so long, I've taken on that role. I've taken on that role to, again, over explain myself so that you fully understand when, again, it's not my job to do that. And so, but we were talking, and she brought up a really valid and a really good point that I was totally able to hear and not see as an attack. And that was, she said to me, Alex, I feel like you don't know me. I feel like you haven't taken the time to get to know who I am. And she was totally right. Totally right. And I saw that in the moment. In the moment, I was not taken back. The walls did not immediately go up. I did not want to retreat or withdraw. It was like, wow, that is valid. And you're right. And I see that. I know that I don't have to go out and have a conversation. And here's the difference between my parents is I know that I don't have to go out and have a heart-to-heart deep conversation with my father to understand who he is more, because I am him. I am a carbon copy of my dad. I take after his side of the family to a T. I internally, genetically, I understand what he's dealt with, what he deals with, what he goes through. I get that. I don't have to go have this deep, long conversation and multiple conversations with him. Would I like to have those? I would like to have those. However, I don't need to do that because I understand. There's things that I understand about why he did what he did and why he was the way he was, because I am the exact same way. I am a complete opposite of my mother. I do not understand my mom. I'm not like her. I don't look like her. That's objective. I probably do look a little bit like her because she's my mom. But like genetically, the way her mind is wired, the way she functions, I don't understand that because I did not get a lot of that from her. My older brother is a carbon copy of her. And so that's definitely has caused a disconnect between my older brother and me as well. I just don't really understand who they are as people because I don't understand how they operate because I do not operate the same way. And so, she was, again, she hit the nail on the head. She was right. I do not understand her. I do not really know her. And I have not given her that opportunity to show herself to me because I've been so locked in this mindset of who I thought she was because of how I was raised. So I was totally projecting my experience and my view and my resentment onto her. I have not allowed or given my mother the opportunity to be who she is and accept that. And you want to talk about a shift in perspective. Oh my gosh. Like, wow. Wow. And I'm really glad that she brought that up. And, she shared some other things about, her being in the relationship with my father and how she had to suppress herself. She had to suppress emotions. She didn't feel like she was being heard. She felt like she couldn't be who she was. And then on top of that, she had kids to take care of. And it was eye opening. It was eye opening because you know what I can relate to? I can to relate to suppressing feelings and emotions. I can relate to that. I can relate to the feeling of not being heard. I can relate to that. That's my experience. It was almost survival mode she was talking about. Survival mode. I'm very well aware of what survival mode is and what survival mode feels like. Very much so. So I was like, wow. I can relate to that. I can totally relate to that. That was powerful. And on the other side of that, what was even more powerful was I didn't shame and guilt myself in thinking that I could have done better or I should have done better. It was more like, wow, those are really valid points. Wow, I have a better understanding now. Okay, let me take this information and let me apply it to my life and move forward with it. And we got on the topic of therapy. That's one of my things that I bring up to her because I think that all human beings, regardless of addiction, being in recovery, going through a very traumatic experience, I believe that a lot of people, most everybody could benefit from therapy. And that's one of the things that I have almost kind of pushed on her when we get into these conversations. And she really explained of like, hey, like that's not what I feel like I need to do. And that she's got a relationship with God, and there's almost times where I would like scoff at that. Huh. Yeah, well, I have a relationship with God too, but I'm also in therapy. I'm also going, and it just showed I was projecting. I was projecting what I was doing onto her and setting a measure that she was not living up to. So therefore that just kept the bitterness and resentment alive inside of me towards her. And this Hey guys, I just want to take a minute to share something deeply personal and transformative in my journey of recovery. I've been where you might be right now, struggling with the weight of addiction and feeling lost. But there's a place that offered me a new beginning, a place I truly believe in. It's called Begin Again Institute. At Begin Again, they understand the deep-rooted trauma behind addiction. Their 14-day intensive program for men tackles the neurobiological aspects of addiction head-on. It's not just about breaking a habit. It's about understanding and healing the underlying trauma that formed it in the first place. And for those who have been impacted by betrayal, Begin Again extends care to partners of addicts too. Their partner support program is offered at no additional cost to the family and runs alongside the men's intensive. This program helps participants gain an understanding of the trauma they've experienced and sets them on their own path to healing. If you or someone you love are grappling with sexual addiction, pornography addiction, or intimacy issues, Begin Again Institute can be that pivotal step towards recovery and a new lease on life. Remember, you can't go back and change the past, but it's never too late to begin again. To learn more about their life-changing program, visit beginagaininstitute.com or call 720-776-9076 to reserve your spot in the next 2-week intensive. I promise, it'll be the best call that you ever make for yourself. Stay strong, keep fighting, and keep tuning in to No Lions Here for more conversations about recovery, resilience, and hope. And this conversation really helped me start breaking down those walls. Would I say that those walls are totally down and totally gone? No. But I'm chipping away at them. And I can feel them lessen and lessen and lessen. And also realizing that, man, I had done that with my whole family, projected onto them in my mind, right? Not outwardly, but projected onto them. Oh, you guys aren't doing what you need to be doing for yourselves the way that I am. Man, it's almost like entitlement, righteousness. I think righteousness is a pretty good word to fit in there. Again, that internally I had been very righteous. And that fuels that bitterness, that resentment. That fuels it. Instead of allowing them to be who they are, because, and this was one of the things that kind of came out in our conversation with my mom, was she has always allowed me to be me. Through the good, through the bad. She has always allowed me to be me. And I have not given her or others that same respect. And that's something that I need to look at. And that's something that I need to work on. And I'm more than willing to do that. And that just really, that there was growth. There was growth in that conversation. There was healing in that conversation. And again, I didn't feel attacked by any of this. I wasn't beating myself up for not seeing this sooner. I was like, wow, these are really good points. And wow, I need to look at my side of the street on this. And being able to accept this, I think, was a big part of growth and healing for me, was being able to hear what she had to say and not take it personally. And to try to be empathetic and understand where she was coming from this whole time. And that I have not given her a chance to do that. I have not. And that's on me. That's on me. And yeah, that was just like, really powerful. Really, really powerful. And then we kind of talked about, organized religion, and, we grew up in the church. And so there was some spiritual abuse that happened. And, I don't blame her for that, because she was caught up in it as well. They were doing it to her. She's just as much a victim of spiritual abuse as I am. She was not the perpetrator there. She was a victim. She was not the perpetrator. So them pushing that onto us and keeping us in those places, she thought she was doing the right thing. She didn't know any better. She thought she was doing the right thing. And, she expressed some remorse around that and around the way that the church had treated us. And I said, well, hold on a second. I hear you. Thank you. But I said, you know what? The silver lining in growing up in that environment and having that religious kind of background that I grew up in, I told her, I said, you know what? Like, that helped me lay the foundation for my spirituality today. That helped me. I've shared this before, getting into recovery, day one of being in treatment and hearing higher power and God and thinking, science tells me that with this program, I can do this. But then day two being like, okay, part of this thump on the head, getting into recovery, like, this was God, calling me back. And so I have an understanding of God and spirituality in like a religious sense, but now I've been able to kind of apply what I learned as a kid. Okay, what don't I like about spirituality and religion? I know that. Okay, so let me model things in a way that I do like it, or a way that the way that I understand it. So I said, being in that environment helped me lay a foundation. I believe in God. I believe there's a God out there. I believe that God's doing for me things that I can't do for myself. Now, do I believe in organized religion? No, that's a whole other story, that whole idea. And I still love this quote of, and I told her this quote too, and she loved it. She was like, oh my gosh, religion is for people that are afraid to go to hell. Spirituality is for people who have been there and don't want to go back. She loved that because she's removed from the church. She has been for some time now. I know she still has a community, and she goes and does different things, but she is very much removed from the conventional churches that are out there. She still has people, and she's still kind of involved in religion. Or again, I think it's more spirituality that she's involved with now, opposed to just straight up religion. And she kind of, and I've seen that. I have seen that from her. And when I turned 18, she told me I didn't have to go to church anymore. You don't got to go to church. You're 18, you can make your own decision. So I'm very grateful for that. She did not continue. Just keep yawning. She didn't continue to push that on us. And so, and she was kind of like, she was really grateful for the way that I explained that to her. And, that conversation brought her and I together more. There's more of an understanding. There's an acceptance there on my end of letting her be her. I didn't so much see her as mom. I saw her more as a human being that has done what she's had to do to survive. And that's powerful. That'll shift your perspective like real quick. And I remember the next day just feeling a lot lighter after that conversation. And there's more conversations to be had, and but if I can approach them with that light and that perspective and that awareness, then that relationship is only going to get deeper. And again, it's not so much viewing her as I'm the little boy and she is mom. It's she is a human being. I am a human being. I can relate. Let me try to understand who you are, and let me allow you to be who you are and not project what I want you to be onto you. Because what I want you to be, you're never going to live up to that. And that's going to help me with the bitterness and resentment. And it also really, really showed me how much bitterness and resentment that I've been holding because I didn't understand her, because I did not allow her to be her. I've allowed my dad to be him, but I have not allowed her to be her. Now, I also think that there is a proximity there. I am further removed from my father than I am with her. I'm still living with her. We're still very close proximity. So there hasn't been that space. And so there's some work that I need to do around kind of grieving what I wanted my mother to be. However, I don't think that I am in a spot right now to really take that on and do that because of the proximity. Because of the proximity that her and I have living together, seeing her, being connected to her like that. Like, I just don't think that I don't have the space for that. And that's okay, right? Put it on the docket. Put it on the list. 'Cause it's there, and it's definitely something that like I need to look at when the time is right. And I know that when the time is right, I can start that process. And that prompted me to reach out to my brothers. I don't talk to them a whole lot. And I'm not like too terribly ashamed or guilty to say that. I've got a life. They've got a life. There's this old, idea of like, just because they're your family doesn't mean you're going to be super close to them. Doesn't mean you're going to be best friends. Like I get along with all my brothers. But I was like, wow, Like, and there were definitely some resentments and bitterness around, man, they know what I'm going through right now, and they're not reaching out to ask me how I'm doing. Okay, well, let's challenge that. The challenge is, Alex, are you reaching out to them? Are you making phone calls to them to see how they're doing? And that answer is no. That answer is no, I'm not. I haven't been. So, okay, how do we change that? What's the solution to that, Alex? Well, the solution is let me pick up the phone and let me call them and tell them that I love them. Let me call them and tell them I love them. Hey, if the conversation doesn't go anywhere else other than that, at least I did my part and I reached out and I said, hey, I just wanted to call you, tell you that I love you. And that next morning, that's exactly what I did. And it led to some really good conversations. I'm still waiting on a call back from one of those brothers. You shall remain nameless. I'm just kidding. Well, I'm not upset about it. That's what I'm trying to say. Again, I feel the need to over-explain that. But there were some really good conversations that were had because I picked up the phone and I did my part. I did my part. And I can continue to do my part. It didn't cost me anything to pick up the phone. It benefited me. I was living in love when I did that. I was living in service when I did that. When I called them to just say, hey, I love you. How are you? What do you have going on? And it led to some really good conversations. Not blaming her. And that she did the best that she could. And that, again, just strengthens that I need to allow her to be her. And I haven't done that. And I think that, and I was out of that. This was literally like at the end of that 5-6 days of being on this new anxiety medication that I was opened to that experience. I was much more open-minded and clear-headed going into that situation, which I didn't even know that situation was going to turn into what it did. But just taking care of something that I needed to take care of then led me to have this really beautiful interaction with my mother. And it was really cool. I shared with my sponsor that night, shout out to Jeff. I shared with him that night. I said, Jeff, I was never supposed to play hockey tonight. Yeah, that was on the docket, but I was never supposed to do that. I was supposed to sit down and have this conversation with my mother. God doing for me what I cannot do for myself. Hockey was never supposed to happen. Even though I said yes to playing and I had full intentions of playing, I was not supposed to play that night. I was supposed to sit down and have dinner and have that conversation with my mom, and I'm really grateful for that. I am not upset that I didn't play hockey that night. I am grateful that I got to have the opportunity to sit down and talk to my mom and have that conversation. And that was just a really good and a really powerful conversation that I got to have with her. And I'm really grateful for that conversation. And that's really showed me a lot. Again, it showed me the bitterness that I had been holding on to. And I recently have been doing group therapy through my my therapist. And in one of the sessions after that, we were talking about okay, hey, what were the good things? What were some of your better experiences in childhood? And again, I got the chance because I had kind of started shedding some of the bitterness or breaking down, chiseling at those walls around the bitterness. I was able to see, wow, there were actually, sure, were my parents, did they give me what I needed? Not necessarily. Did they do their best? Absolutely. Were they able to give me experiences that I look back on now and say, wow, I'm really glad I had the opportunity to go and do that? Yes, they did. There were some once in a lifetime experiences that I got to take part in because my parents thought that would be a good idea for us to experience that. And that's other cultures. We lived overseas for a couple years growing up. They took us on vacations, and they did things for us that helped shape me in a good way. It's not all bad. And I have been so stuck in the bad. So stuck. And I did not realize that. It's so subconscious, these things sometimes. So subconscious, very deeply buried in there, and just old tapes, and resentfulness, bitterness, and that I have been so stuck in looking at the bad that I was not able to see the good. It's that whole idea of, that 99 to 1 syndrome, right? Like, I can have 99 great things going on in my life, but there's that one thing that's going on that makes me uncomfortable, that could be very minor, but man, I just hover onto that. Zoop. Everything else gets blocked out. Zoop. Let's focus in on this one little thing. And that's really how I've been viewing my childhood recently. Or not even recently, like the whole time I've been in recovery. This is like what I've been stuck in. And so like the thoughts have been around, because I was thinking about this last night, accepting my childhood, not dwelling on it, accepting it. I think for me, that victim mentality allows me to be to it allows me the justifications to go act out. It allows me that woe is me, that victim mentality, again, that keeps me stuck. It's familiar. I've talked about this too. Like, it's uncomfortable, however, it's familiar. I know how to operate in that mindset because I've done it for so long that it feels, I don't want to say normal, but again, familiar. That's a very familiar place for me to be. And that's also a dangerous place for me to be too. Because again, I justify acting out. Well, if I'm a victim, then I have all these reasons and excuses to go and do these things that I think that I am entitled to go and do. And that's not the mindset that I want to be in. That's not it at all. So, I'm really grateful to have had that conversation with her, to be in that space, and to see and hear that in a way that I did not feel attacked. I did not feel like a victim. And it's really opened up my eyes to see and allow other people to be themselves. And that's like truly where I want to be. And allowing myself to be who I am and accepting who I am, which that's still a struggle for me. I'm working on it. I'm doing my best. But it's just a really good reminder of, one, it's not all about me. It's not all about me. It's about others too. And I need to give others the space to be who they are. So if you're struggling with anything like that in your life right now, look at, am I allowing other people to be themselves? Or am I projecting what I want them to be on them? Because when we do that, they do not live up to the projection of what I want them to be. And they're going to fall short every single time. And that is going to keep me in that bitterness and resentment loop. And that is a very dangerous place to be. Resentment leads to acting out. It leads to relapsing, to using, whatever your form of addiction is. Resentment leads to that every single time. Every single time. So again, I'm grateful that I had that conversation and I've that perspective change and the medication, just feeling more open-minded, more clear-headed. And I gotta say, I'm happy with where I'm at right now. Again, it's not perfect. I still got a lot of work to do. Things I'm still working through. I want to probably spend an episode getting into the internship right now. That was going to be part of this episode. However, I think that this is a good place to leave this episode. I think this episode is. I think this is a good place because this is a good reminder for me. It's a good reminder for me, and I can do a whole other. You guys know I love to talk. I can let the next episode be about the internship and some of the things that I'm dealing with there. It's going well. I'm just dealing with some stuff there too. But again, I think I want to leave this one where it's at and not get too far into that right now. And so that's a little bit about just kind of those have been those two things, right? The anxiety medication and the conversation with my mom. That those were two big pieces that I'm I'm challenging and looking at, and those were big pieces that I knew that they were issues, but I guess I really didn't fully grasp the full weight of what those were doing to me and how stuck I was in those, and recovery. This is all about unstucking ourselves. I don't think that's a word, but we're going to use that word here, is unstucking myself so that I can move forward and be the best version of myself for myself. And that's where the focus is, and that's what I want to be doing right now. Yeah. That's what I want to do. That's where I want to be. So, yeah. Thank you guys. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks for joining me. I really appreciate this. As always, go check out the social medias on Instagram, YouTube. Go give us a like, a follow, subscribe. I drop content every day across these platforms. We're on TikTok. I'm not on them, but I drop content across the board with these. And go check out our sponsor, Beginning Again Institute. Go check out the things that you're doing. If you or anyone else is struggling with porn addiction, sex addiction, intimacy disorder, they can help, guys. They can help. I truly believe in what they're doing out there. Check them out. It'll be the best call you've ever made. Definitely go check them out. Tell them Big Panda sent you, and they'll definitely take care of you guys. So thank you so much. If there's anything that you want to hear or anybody you want me to have on, please feel free to reach out. That email is nolionshere@gmail.com. Again, that is nolionshere@gmail.com. And until next time, guys, keep coming back. It works if you work it, and you're worth it. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.